Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 8 of On1 Inspiration. My name is Brian Matiash. So I think by my count, this is the third issue of Inspiration that we've gone to Iceland. And for those of you who have been, you totally understand why. It is just an absolutely otherworldly place. And so my very first time there, I had an opportunity to photograph inside a few ice caves. I have no idea how I got to those ice caves. I was the passenger. But we went to the ice caves. I was so excited because, I've seen photos of, what ice caves look like, but I never expected it to be as challenging of a location as it was. When you look at these ice caves, they're gigantic, and it's impossibly difficult to kind of get a proper exposure. At least it was for me at the time of day, because you have this light coming in. So we went right around sunrise, and that light bounced off of every single surface. Yeah, ice is pretty much reflective. So um, for a while, I was definitely, I don't know if struggling is the right word, but I was definitely trying hard to find these wide compositions, and it wasn't until a couple hours in, and we started having other people join. We were there before anyone else, so as more people started to join, the idea of shooting ultra wide, kind of, I got one shot that I was happy with a guy kind of in the distance, but for the most part, shooting wide for me was lost. But I put on my telephoto lens and I focused on abstracts, because for all of the kind of huge, just kind of the cavern you're in, filled with ice and snow, there is this beautiful kind of, I don't know, there's an elegance to the way the ice forms. So I spent the next couple of hours just focusing on finding those patterns and those details and making something kind of artful out of it with intent. So that's kind of the message for this issue of On1 Inspiration is, um, it's easy to kind of want to try to get everything into a single frame. I totally get it. You want to get it all in there, and you should get one or two shots, but then really look at the quality and the characteristics of the place you're in. For me, that ice cave was really all about the details. When I look at the photos now and I see just those beautiful details, that's what I remember. That's kind of what the ice cave meant to me. So let's go ahead here to the computer, and we'll start editing one of my favorite photos that I took from that ice cave. All right, so I've got the photo over here in On1 Layers 10, and the first thing I want to do is, all I care about is this little bit of rocky ground and then this kind of abstract ice formation. I'm absolutely in love with this kind of pillar. It really is fantastic. And so you've got some stuff here, and I want to just kind of black it out because you can see for the most part here it's black. So all I need to do is take my clone stamp over here, and I'm just going to set my Wacom tablet to brush size, so here I can kind of go up and down with the touch wheel. And if I press and hold on the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC, I can select an area to source from. So I'm just going to select from right here, and I'm going to start just drawing on areas that I want to black out. And so you can see, because for the most part we're only going to be focusing on the ice, this kind of ice column thing, I don't really worry about the fact that it's just totally black. I really just want to focus on this. So what I'm going to do is speed this up. I'll show you how I kind of use the clone stamp. There's really nothing fancy or magical to it. I'm just going to speed things up so you don't have to watch me go through this, because it's not the most exciting part, but it is important. So let's do it. And there we have it. Now you can kind of see that there's not as much of a distraction with the background that was there. You just have the ice column and the ground, and the clone stamp worked perfectly here. So I'm happy with that. Now with the cloning done and the background blacked out, I'm going to bring the photo into effects to start stylizing it. So I'll just select on effects from the toolbar on the right. All right, so first thing I do is click on the add filter. Like always, I'm a fan of building my kind of looks from scratch using the original filters as opposed to the presets. Not that there's anything wrong. The presets are right over here, and by all means, go. And actually, it's kind of funny that it opened up my hot and cold presets. The glacial preset here. That's kind of funny. All right, so first things first. You don't need to guess it, but in case you do, it's dynamic contrast. And for the most part, dynamic contrast works really well. In this case, the default, watch if I kind of turn it off and then turn it back on, just really nice. Look at the detail in the ice that comes out. If anything, I might increase the vibrance of this particular layer, but I'm going to leave it as is. Normally, I'll adjust the detail sliders, or I'll drop the opacity of this actual filter, but this is perfectly good. All right, so now I'm going to hit add filter, and I'm going to go to the lens flare. Now, lens flare here, the default one doesn't work for me, and this is a technique I used several issues ago with On1 Inspiration, where I'll take it and I'll select the upright preset, and just even alone here, the upright preset it's a really cool filter. I think it has a lot of use, especially if, like, let's say, you decrease the opacity type of thing. But in this case, what I'm going to do is, first thing, I'm going to select the gear and then change my blending mode to multiply. So watch just kind of what it does. Like, I really like what it does right down here. It just kind of, again, I'm all about accentuating this abstract piece of ice. So I'm going to select the multiply blending layer, and I'm going to take the blooming slider that's all the way down here and bring that all the way to 100. And what that does is it brings out the highlights. It allows the highlights to bloom. And that's something we used to see back in the old focal point days, which was one of my favorite applications that On1 ever made. And now I'm just going to dial back that opacity of this particular filter to about 60%. So again, here's kind of what that lens flare filter does. Not what you would normally use a lens flare or think a lens flare would do, but when you play with blending modes, I think you can get pretty cool results. So onward. So what I want to do is really, again, I'm focusing on this column of ice more than anything. And so when I'm thinking about filters that I want to apply, I'm thinking about things that will accentuate the contrast and the texture. So, and you don't necessarily always think about texture with ice. Ice is typically smooth, but as you can see here, there are all these folds and kind of ripples in the ice. So I'm going to go and select bleach bypass for this. And even the default one is pretty cool. You can see what I mean. It gives it almost this metallic feel. But in this case, I'm going to select the strong preset. And now you're getting into this, I don't know, there's something sci-fi about this. Like, it's turning from ice to metal. And I think that's pretty cool. But what I'm going to do is drop that opacity overall to about 70%. And then I'm also going to bring out just a tiny bit of this tint using the default color here. Watch, if I bring it to 100%, it just adds this total tint to the image. And that's cool if you want to use a blending mode or if you want to just apply like a color tint. But in this case, I only want just about 5%. That's too, there, 7% is fine. Kind of, the photo is getting a bit too cool for me overall, the tone, so that adds a little bit of kind of a little nutty, warm tone to the photo. And then I'll add one final layer here, and this is something that might go against the grain in terms of all the stuff that I was just saying about texture, but I do think that the glow filter works beautifully here. So the only thing is I'm going to dial this back because it's a bit too strong, but watch, just like without glow, with glow, and then we'll bring it back to about 70%. But I'm also going to increase the warmth, the temperature of this to, again, it was getting a bit too cool for me. So somewhere around there. And what you're doing, what I think this does is it neutralizes the temperature, for lack of better words, the tone of the ice. I'm going to turn it off and then turn it back on. And so let's kind of step through here. So I'm going to turn dynamic contrast off. So now this is our original photo. And you can see, for the most part, it's cool. It's kind of got that blue tone to it. And, basically, this is straight out of camera. The only thing I started with was the cloning. So nothing was done to this photo at all. So the dynamic contrast I use to bring out the texture, and I'm not really worried about the black because it's blacked out. And everything we're doing in terms of filters on top of that compounds the black background. So then the lens flare adds a little bit of that the tint to the photo. The bleach bypass adds a really nice strong contrast boost, but it also accentuates the tint, even with, and by tint I mean the cool tone, even with this tint here. But the glow, I think, really neutralizes it and adds that kind of metallic look. And so just original and with a few simple effects. So you don't have to go overboard with the effects. It's just a matter of knowing the direction you want to take your photo. Like, I knew I wanted to give this kind of this metallic feel, because it was otherworldly standing in this ice cave, and it was without a doubt one of the most challenging locations I've ever photographed. So instead of trying to get it all into one frame, all I did was focus on just finding the abstracts, like the little pieces that are greater than the sum of its parts. That's something I definitely recommend you try to do as well. So with that, I want to thank you, and I will see you all on our next issue of On1 Inspiration.